Good evening, everyone. Hello, welcome. My name is Michael Jans, and I am one of the organizers for this evening. In my other life, I serve as chair at the Edmonton Public School Board, and I also work for the Alberta Mentoring Partnership, one of the host organizations this evening. And on behalf of both organizations, I'm very happy to welcome all of you here today in conjunction with some of our treasured partners who have made this event possible. We have the Alberta Teachers Association, Local 37, the public teachers with their president, Nels Olson, and as well Local 54, and their president, Greg Carabine, who I think will be joining us later. So they have been fantastic partners and jumped at the opportunity to pull together this event and to share. We also have the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative, and Marissa Edavansky at the back in the purple. It's a wonderful partnership to work with them. They do some fantastic work in brain health and helping youngsters throughout our province and really across North America to be successful in their learnings and be high-functioning human beings. Also from the Alberta Mentoring Partnership, we have Corey Dodge in the blue shirt there, who will be taping and recording this panel so that we can share it with some of our partners throughout Alberta who are not able to be with us this evening, but do want to learn more and hear as well. So a few months ago, there was a lot of energy coming together about this film, Paper Tigers, and a few of us said, well, why don't we try and get a room together, get some dinner, and have a screening? And we brought this to Marissa, because I knew Marissa had a copy of the DVD, and she said, I'll do you one better. What if I lend you the DVD? And we worked together to bring the teachers from the film here to Canada to participate in a panel discussion for interested individuals. And we said, absolutely, that sounds marvelous. And the ATA said, absolutely, that sounds marvelous. And AMB jumped on board as well, and we were thrilled to be able to pull this together. So I welcome from Genie and Erik, who have joined us all the way from Walla Walla, Washington, and you're going to hear a little bit about their story in a moment when we get the film going, and they're going to be joining us on a panel here to have a dialogue really with all of you about their experience and the film and their journey, and we really look forward to that. And we're so happy that the weather hasn't totally gone to minus 40 for your visit, so we welcome you to Alberta. And there's a couple other folks in the room I want to recognize as well too, some policymakers here in our province. We have from the Edmonton Public School Board, we have trustees Nathan Imp in the back, as well as trustee Cheryl Johnner, two of the policymakers with the big public school board here. And we also have Patricia Grell, who's a leader with the Catholic School Board here in Edmonton. So you actually, if you took a look at the guest list, you have a very impressive audience today. You have principals, teachers, consultants, frontline folks who are really making a difference in our city for kids. So I know that there'll be some amazing learning going both ways, and we're again so happy to have all of you here. Our agenda is very simple. We're going to have a bite to eat. We're going to have some dinner. There'll be popcorn. Actually, there's popcorn at the back now, two different kinds, lemon pepper and Cajun. So help yourself and come and go. And what's a good movie without popcorn? We'll show the film. It's about just over an hour and a half. And then after that, we'll go straight into a discussion. And I believe as well, we additionally with Genie and Erik on the panel, we're going to have Brad Burns, who's the principal of Highland School here in Edmonton. He's going to be joining us on the panel as well. I believe is Bill Smiley here. Yep, Bill Smiley from the Family Center, who is the manager of therapy and counseling, will be coming and sharing as well too. And each of them have an interesting interaction with this ACES research in their own work, and they will be sharing about how it makes a difference and how we can continue to spread the word. So our goals for this evening are very simple. We wanted to have a bit of a space for reflection and sharing and a bite to eat. We wanted to have a chance for all of you as well to share not just a panel talking at you, but really a dialogue about your experience and reflections. We also wanted to have an opportunity to build a relationship with another leader in this room, maybe somebody else from another area that you don't get to work with in your day-to-day, but if we could build a renewed community of practice in our city and across our province, that would be an incredible outcome. And finally, we wanted to build upon the existing understanding of brain science, understandings of adverse childhood experience, and to talk together about strategies that we can work on to mitigate those maladaptive consequences and really change the future for so many of our youngsters in Alberta. So by a show of hands, how many of you had seen the film before this evening? No. So nobody. So I can imagine you're going through a lot of processing right now, yeah, we're gonna honor that, and we're gonna give you a chance to ask some questions and get started. Before we begin, I want to give a shout out on the side here to Greg Carabine, the president of local ATA Local 54, and again, thank you so much to the ATA for our good partners for bringing us here and giving us dinner this evening. So. In the kitchen all day, cooking, boiling pasta, doing all that. Yeah. No, indeed, that's wonderful. So to introduce the panel, to my left, first of all, Erik Gordon, who you've just spent an hour with, the science teacher from Walla Walla, Washington, who has flown up to be here, and they're actually heading down to Calgary tomorrow. So we have to make sure that we give them all the really hard and good Edmonton questions first. And beside Erik is Genie Huntemann, you would know as the English and reading teacher in the film. And beside Genie is Principal Brad Burns from Highland School here in Edmonton. And he's an award-winning, very well-recognized principal, and he's often the site of many visits and tours throughout for guests Edmonton. And I believe Erik and Genie both had the chance to spend some time with Brad and his kids today too, so that's really exciting. So we're going to hear some powerful stories there. And then to his left is Bill Smiley, the manager of therapy and counseling at the Family Center here in Edmonton. Who, anybody show of hands? Is anybody here from the Family Center? He has in our city. He has tremendous reach in our schools and in the community, and we'll be very interested to hear about all of the work that he's doing and how this ACEs research connects to his work. So maybe to get it started before we jump into the panel, I wanted to ask the audience, do any of you have questions about the film or right now that you'd like to pose? If you want to stand actually and say your name and where you're from, and then we'll get the panel done.
Yeah, okay, my name is Shelley and I'm at Edmonton School. And in terms of the population of your school, like what size is the school, and I mean, is the entire population like
trouble?
There we go. Okay. Yeah.
Want to use the mic?
We have right around 200 students. And by and large, yes, most of our population has had some tough grown-up stuff. The one caveat to that is that we have this small group of like homeschooled kids who the families didn't want to do the really big high school, and so they've shown up at our school. But yeah, I took a mental survey the other day, and my homeroom, out of 15 kids, 80% of them have been abandoned by their parents, so it's pretty much our norm.
We also have a large influx right now of a lot of anxiety. So we have a spattering of kids that are not necessarily from trauma, but for whatever reason they've just got a lot of anxiety. Big high school is just too much. But actually, so there's something I want to throw out here at the beginning before we get into this thing, because I want to mention this about the movie, because I think this is a really important thing to cover. You guys are all educators, and there should have been a certain piece of this movie that fired off your BS meter. And I mean that, right? Like, teaching's not this sexy. Teaching's not this slick, this smooth. We're not even this good at teachers, honestly. Like, I mean, no, it's true. Like, I think one of the things that's tough for me, and it's part of the hard thing watching this movie, is I'm not that good. Like, there's certain guilt associated with watching this for me. You know, like it was, important to know also though, what is absolutely true about this movie is the way it feels at our school. And the way it feels, and the way the interaction from staff to teacher is. That part is spot on, and that is what it looks like. Now, does the arc happen that smoothly? No. Jen Bradwell put together a beautiful, beautiful story, a beautiful movie. Am I always that happy and cheerful? Do I always love my kids so unconditionally?
Does his facial hair change all the time?
Yeah, that happens. That part's true. But you know, it's just not. And you know, it feels that makes me want to stand up and be like, yeah, I want to go teach on Monday. You know, and that's awesome. Like, I appreciate that. But at the same time, I get nervous that people are going to watch it and be like, come on, it's not like that, because you know it's not like that, right? And I don't want you to throw out the baby with the bathwater, as they say, right? Because there's a lot of it that is spot on, that's important for us to understand about how to interact with kids and not get distracted by the part that's clearly too sexy. I apologize, yesterday it was the bottom of a bad cold that I'm on the up, but excuse me.
Ma'am?
I guess with that being said, I'm not an educator. I mean, I've taught preschool and dealt with certain levels of these types of things. However, I'm here as a parent tonight. I found out about this and was interested because I feel like I have a daughter who is sort of on the verge of these types of things. And I'm trying to compile everything I can as a preventative because I don't want to see her down this road, obviously. So my question, I guess, is that do you guys have certain present parents that are working in conjunction with you? I mean, obviously there's got to be some sort, not every child there, right, has parents that are not present. So what, I guess, is a vague question as it is, what advice would you have to a parent who is starting to recognize these things and believes that what you guys are doing is the way to hit it head on? I don't know what else to ask about it. I don't know what else I want to ask about it after seeing this for the first time just now. I believe in the ideas that you guys have, and I think that that's where I need to go with it.
Just not sure how to implement it.
Yeah, not sure how to implement it, and just wanting some feedback about what you think a parent needs to be doing to work along that arc as well.
You're doing it right now.
Right.
Which is awesome, right?
Right, but this is the very beginning of the journey for us. I mean, we've started in with some mental health stuff that the city provides. That first appointment happens on the 24th. So this is all very new. And I would expect that some of the suggestions and things like that I'm going to get throughout this process are going to be along these lines. But I want to hear from you guys who have seen this in action. And you're not necessarily a doctor, you're not necessarily these mental health professionals, but you're a teacher who has a very real, everyday interaction with kids dealing with these types of things.
Sure, and truly, we have very few involved parents. This year, I think we started the year with maybe a few more because of publicity, and we got this reputation for so long as being the bad kid school, and parents want the kids to go there. And typically, we don't have very many people show up at conferences at all. We started our first conferences this year, and we were kind of busy with a lot of people saying, thank you, we've been struggled through middle school, and we sought you out, and it's the first time our kid likes school, so thank you for that, which is kind of a twist from what we've had in the past. You live in a big city, so I imagine it's a little bit navigating resources and stuff. It's a little bit hard. I would take a look at schools. One of the things, find the most supportive environment that you can find. Show up to school, what can I do to be involved, and be super present.
Brad and Bill, do you want to take a crack at responding as well?
It's you.
Me?
Yeah.
I think absolutely being in partnership with the school that you're at is really important. Accessing any help and support that the school can offer, and there's lots of it out there. Depending on the school, lots of us partner with the Family Center, and we have lots of supports built in. Family Center itself has counseling available for families and children. But what you're doing, being aware, advocating for your child, building the information and the understanding, and being completely open and honest with your school about the needs and the expectations that you have for your child is so important. So no hiding details, and everybody being on the same team is so important.
Right.
So important.
Bill, did you want to share?
No, I think that was great.
And ma'am, in the blue.
Yeah, my name is Diana, I work at Walla Junior High. I'm a special education assistant in the 8th year class. This is my coordinator, just to recall, he's the teacher. I have a question. Here, our dropout age is 16 as a god. You don't have a dropout age?
Brutal.
You said in yours that kids get, they get charged if they don't go to school.
Wait, you mean when a kid turns 16, they can drop out of high school if they
Yes,
want to?
that's right.
What's
Yes.
wrong with you people?
Well, and that's,
Who's making policy around here?
right, so.
I can say that because I don't know, but honestly, that sounds insane to me. Like,
But that is a concern. So we're in junior high and we have a behavior class, so we have trouble kids we see. I mean, a lot of those kids were going, oh yeah. So they're gonna get to high school. We already have kids that are turning 15 this
Right.
summer who are saying, but I'm gonna do 16 next year, so it really doesn't matter. I'm going to drop out. They've already set themselves up. So our system, I feel like I might not have a job tomorrow. Our system, I feel, has kind of already failed these kids because we're pushing really hard at the junior high level, and we do a lot of the trauma-based in our classroom and the toxic stress, and I'm a huge mental health advocate. So we do a lot of that, but we know when they get to high school that some of our kids, not all of them, some are just they're gonna quit at 16, and they're gonna try and find a job or sit at home and smoke pot and do whatever those kids are doing. There is no consequence.
Sure.
So that seems to be, and you have a 4-year plan. Our kids are on a 3-year plan, and then if they want to go for the 4th year, they go to Center High. So we used to have a 4-year plan, we took that out many years ago. So your kids can stay for 4 years in high school, right?
right,
To finish high school.
5.
5 or
5,
more.
6, not here.
I'm trying to think, I'm in my own head, I'm trying to estimate how many kids we would lose out of our high school tomorrow.
Yes.
If we said that at 16 you could walk away.
How many would you lose?
Half.
Not that many, but I mean,
It's-
we get that same rhetoric with like, oh, as soon as I turn 18, it's all gonna be great, I'm done, right?
But 18.
Right, but they stop tracking, they stop doing truancy 17, but it gives them that another week.
Yeah.
I mean, my answer for that is relationships, like you have to build those relationships to keep the kids in school.
Yes, and that's what we work on a lot.
But the struggle, the hard part though, and that's where we're really fortunate, not only do you have to be there till 18, if you don't, and they're taking this away from us, and it's gonna be really tragic, and that is, up until just months ago, if you didn't go to school, you went to jail. You
Right.
went to juvie. So not only did you have to go until you were 18, and you went to juvie.
What
And
happens
so,
in junior high if they don't go to school?
same thing, it was all the same.
See, in here, if they don't go to school, the parents get fined.
But here's the problem with it is this, the relationship is true, but you have to have them in the door enough in order to build a relationship, in order to get your meat hooks in there and keep them there.
Yeah.
And so that was the struggle, is because truancy, now that we don't have that hammer for truancy, and there's no reason for them to be there consistently enough, it's gonna really make it much more of a challenge. Stephen in the movie, the only reason he made it was because of the fact that if he didn't come to class, he was gonna go to jail. Then all of a sudden he came to class for a month or two, and that was all it took, and we got the hooks in him, and he was down to stay. I think it would be a really challenge if they could before you were able to, but I guess that just means you have to work back down farther through the system and start getting those relationships built.
And something that resonated too is what you said about parents going to parent-teacher interviews and saying, this is the first time my child has wanted to go to school. And we do find that in our school. We have kids that come, a lot of troubled kids that come, and they finally come to school and they build those relationships, and the parents will say, this is the first time so-and-so has wanted to get up in the morning and actually come to school. And we have in our classroom, I'd say about 90% attendance, if our attendance rate is great. And at parent-teacher interviews with 14 families, we probably get 10.
And I apologize for being quite so brutal about who's making policy. Partly it's just because I know that as a teacher, my biggest struggle, the hardest part of my job is the truancy aspect of it. So the idea that it would even get harder is hard to imagine.
Gentleman in the back.
I was curious about that from a trauma-informed, framework. The Judy is the hammer, right? And I understand it. I understand that it's got to be those kind of bottom lines. There's not what we call a tremendous amount of motivation externally or internally, external from the parents. So how do you wrap your head around that one? You're trying to do more of the trauma-informed, and then the hammer is you go to juvie. And we've been through this in Alberta with their young offender stuff, and JDA, the Juvenile Delinquent Act, 20 years ago changing. So I'm just curious about that. And also, I just want to say the great irony about Alberta is, we don't have a measure to keep them in school after 16, yet we'll support them under children's services until the age of 23. And that's just in advance. So it's almost like we wait till they grow into the frontal lobes and then pick them up again. Right? So anyway, I'm just curious about your thinking on that.
Well, one thing I was going to say, I mean, you can also be a partner with, juvenile detention. When some of my besties are not going to school or they failed a UA or whatever, like, I go down to Judy and visit them, and sometimes I'm the only person to do that. You know, the family hasn't shown up. So you're still building that relationship. You still can have that peace. And sometimes it is the one thing that can, you know, they have got to show up for school. Well, you know, like I said, you finally get them there. So Judy's it's not a terrible place in our town. I mean, most kids don't want to go there. Some kids do because it's safe. They get fed and that kind of thing. But
Your concern is valid, and because of the concern is the reason it's going away, and because not every school is like ours, and so what was happening is schools that wanted these kids gone were utilizing that JJC system and truancy to just get them out of their school system, and that's what they're trying to prevent. And I can't slight that. I get that. It's just for us, we were using it in such an intimate way to keep kids where we wanted them. So it was like where other schools would use it as a way of getting them away from them, we were using it as a tool to bring them to us.
Just a comment, I'm not an educator either, I'm a social worker with a small nonprofit agency. And we do a lot of groups, youth groups. And I love what you stand for as far as never giving up. And I've been in social work for 30 years. Nothing's changed with these kids. We still have parents that don't show up. We still have kids that we go to, there's a mental health unit in one of the hospitals in the inner city, like an inner city hospital here in Walla Walla. I went to visit a boy in there the first night. Parents could only go on Wednesday night. As I walked in to visit this kid, he's on the phone to his parents who are making excuses why they can't go and see him. And so we just hung on to that kid. His parents split up, they got back together, but we kept chasing that kid around. We would pick him up to bring him to the groups. We pick up kids that can't get to our groups. We feed them, and we know, we try to work with the parents, but if they're not gonna show up, we go get the kids and we bring them. So it's proven to be the determining factor of whether or not you're gonna build that relationship is you never give up. They test us, they tell us to fuck off, they do all that stuff, but we look past that, and I just love that this is becoming a big movement. I sympathize with the teachers and the educators in the room because you guys don't have the time to get to do what I get to do. There are some excellent teachers in this community, excellent schools. There are some, same as social workers, that aren't so great. They shouldn't be teaching. There are social workers who shouldn't be social working. But just the fact that everybody's here really gives me hope. And I really thank you guys for what you're doing.
I really like that quote from the movie, the behavior isn't the kid, the behavior is a symptom of what's going on in their life.
Yeah, I have kind of a fear. I mean, I saw the list of names, of positions, of who's here, and there's a lot of people that can make a lot of change sitting in this room right now. And having sat with people that have seen this before, I can tell you there's a couple concerns I have. One is you see this movie and you think to yourself, either those are the kids that are alternative high school, or those aren't my kids, okay? And the fact is, there are more of these kids in your schools than you realize there are. And part of the reason for that is, you know, and I've said this a couple times today, in elementary school, you've got humans teaching children, and there's a connection there. Once you get into high school, there's this professional distance that develops, and I'm a professional teacher and you're a professional student, and I'm going to have this relationship across this professional divide. And until you make a connection with those kids as a human, and they trust you as a human, and allow themselves into you as a human, and trust you and confide in you, you're really not going to realize what's going on in their lives, because these kids are amazing, a large part are amazing at covering up what's really going on in their homes. And if you look at the research and the numbers of kids sitting in your traditional ed classrooms and you have no idea what's going on in their lives, this is not something that is just those kids at this school.
How many subjects would each teacher teach them, like, to build that relationship?
To build that relationship.
How many hours in a day?
It's just a regular, I have it for 55 minutes for science, unless I have it at homeroom as well, but otherwise I say once a day.
Once a day.
I often have kids twice a day. I I'm the Title I teacher, kids not being benchmarked, so I've had kids for all 4 years in English, so by the end, we're so close. I mean, it's like impossible. I mean, you could love them or you could hate them. We all always love each other, so.
Yeah, I'm really impressed at how much this film focuses on relationships as the central. I mean, if there is an intervention, it's relationships. And we're just talking about class sizes, and I know there are gurus, say from Australia, who say class sizes make no difference. They make a difference. They may not make much difference in terms of academics, but they make a difference in terms of how much you can have those relationships. And as we start to see some high schools with classes over 40, I don't know what it's like down in the States, but
So high 30s.
you know, it just, you always go home with the guilt that you couldn't get to all of your kids.
Right.
Because for every one of those children that you have that kind of extended relationship, there are dozens you just can't connect with. You just don't with 40 kids. But I wondered if you could speak a little bit more detail about what wasn't in the film. What was going on around the coaching with Kelsey and Gustavo in the film? Because as things break down at home, and we see this a lot, particularly young girls, end up with guys, and I don't know if Gustavo was a good guy or not, but there were several relationships there that would suggest this isn't a good relationship. And so it's not just relationships, it's positive relationships. And how do you go about coaching that when that's the only relationship she had?
I mean, part of it, we have the health center to show, and you know, they run a lot of groups, and work on relationship groups, they work on girls group, guys group. Absolutely, it's one of our biggest struggles. So many of our girls, by and large, have horrible self-esteem, and you know, continue to join up and have terrible relationships. It's constant conversation. It's the ones that they're willing to have, and we speak pretty openly about healthy relationships.
So one other thing I want to point out here that also gets confused. The idea of a trauma-informed lens, when you look at kids, even our own district, which we're in, it took years for them to finally get this. And that is, the thing that we do at our school is not a trauma-informed lens of kids. We have a school that has a tremendously high rate of kids that have social emotional needs and are lacking skills. And that's our gig, that's what we do. And because a trauma-informed lens relates to that so heavily, and it is inseparable from that at like almost every given moment of every given day, it's easy to lump that trauma-informed lens as the thing that Lincoln does. Like the number of times that I heard a superintendent or a district level person refer to the thing that Lincoln does. This is what Lincoln does, this thing. And I want to be clear, a trauma-informed lens applies in an AP class at a high school level, it applies in a first grade class. This is just the way you view kids and the way you look to see what is going on in this kid's life. Why is the behavior doing what it's doing right now? It's not the thing you do. You all have the things you do. You're all from different schools and you have your things going on. You keep doing that. Keep giving tons of homework in your AP classes. You don't have to stop doing that. You're still going to look at kids through this lens, though, that says, why is this kid acting the way they're acting? That's the trauma-informed lens, right? But that part oftentimes gets confused. And so, you know, the reality is, if you guys are administrators and you're in a position where you can create change, then you have to ask yourself, is the goal to meet the need of every kid in school? If you had a kid in your class that has dyslexia, then you're going to adapt the program and make that kid successful in your school. You're not going to kick the kid out of school because they have dyslexia. If you look at the brain science and you believe that someone that grows up in trauma has a brain that is affected like this is a disability. So when that kid that is in your class and is acting a certain way, why are you trying to punish the behavior into something different? You don't try to punish away dyslexia. And this is no different. This is a hardwiring issue that's happened because because of trauma and stress in the brain that's causing the behavior to act the way it does. Well, then as an administration, if you're gonna say we're gonna meet the needs of every kid, what does that mean for you? What do you have to do then? I mean, is your belief that your school can meet the need of every kid? Like, can you swallow the pill that maybe there's a group of kids at your school that need to have a class that looks a little bit different? Maybe they need to have a small class size, like you were just saying. Maybe you keep large class sizes, but maybe you have to fund another tier of people that, because the reality of it is you can't have a kid blowing up a class and preventing the other 39 kids from learning. Something needs to happen with that kid, right? Well, just because that's true doesn't mean that kid needs to be unloved in the process of whatever that process is going to look like. That teacher can ask that child to leave the classroom and the message that kid can get is, I wish you were here. I wish you could continue learning with me. I like it best when you're here. I need you to go and talk to so-and-so right now and just figure out what's going on. Can't wait to have you back. This isn't a punishment. It just looks like you've got a bunch of stress going on right now. Like, figure out what's going on. That next person that kid comes in contact with then is not the disciplinarian that has this idea that I'm gonna do some sort of punishment that's gonna be bad enough that the next time this kid they won't act like this next time because they'll be scared to come to the principal's office. Come on, right? Like, we're in high school. If that was going to work, it would work in the previous 8 years of getting there. And so that's a level that most schools don't have, though, right? But why can't that next person they come in contact be the relationship building person that's figuring out what's going on for you? Like, whose responsibility is it that the janitorial staff and the kitchen staff and the bus drivers and every single person that kid comes in contact with throughout the day, that kid thinks to themselves, man, that person's really glad I'm here today, right? Like, I did a survey at the beginning of this class, my incoming freshmen this year, about the highs and lows of their previous school experience. I mean, I realize I'm in a target-rich environment for this because there's a reason they're at our school. I don't know, I can't, like, the percentage of the kids in my freshman class that identified the worst aspects of their lives have been school previous to that point. And the problem they had with school, it wasn't too much homework, it wasn't too hard of academics, and some of them was peers because they were getting bullied, but the overarching theme was an interaction that they'd had with a staff member previous to that point that they identified as the worst part of their previous school experience. You know, I mean, that's heartbreaking. Like, that's fixable. There's no reason that we should have that. There's no reason that should be the case.
I had a question over here, and then yourself, and then yourselves.
I was just wondering, movement obviously is set, but what about in the community itself, like, some of those police at the school, like, were they trained in ACE, or like the local Boys and Girls Club trained in ACE, did the community catch on?
Yeah, there was a children's initiative, I believe it was called, something Resilient Children. Yeah, they all have acronyms that are awesome. And there was Laura Porter out of Olympia. She's phenomenal. I would encourage you guys to tap into that as a resource for sure. She developed this change theory that she was going to do to implement ACEs into communities, and there was 12 different communities in the state that were chosen to do this. And so ACEs was what they were pushing out, and it just happened to be that it corresponded, and that wasn't the reason we started doing this at our school, but it all happened at about the same time. And so while we were doing this thing kind of in isolation at our school, she was in the middle of the community, because really, you know, if you know brain research, the older you get, the more your brain is set, right? The harder it is to start to make change. And so, you know, she was trying to get into the community and get into families and get into educational pieces of it early on to where they're affecting really small children, preschool children. Yes, law enforcement was training up their officers. The officer you see in the movie ended up going back into, he's now back in the police force, and the one before, our student resource officer before him is now sergeant, and they're bringing that to the way they interact with the community at large. So yeah, our community in particular was one of the ones that had the most success rate, and I wish I could remember the numbers, but there was a ton of stuff. There was a ton of bad stuff that got less. I'll go that in the community. How's that for specific?
Hi, my name is Sue, and I'm a retired teacher, but I substitute teach, and I love my new job. Anyways, there's one thing that really struck me was the in-school suspension room. I love that. I think that sometimes when we suspend kids and we send them off, it doesn't really help. And how did you get that established? And like, I mean, the relationship that they had with that one particular staff member, and then she took, Brooke was her name, right? And she took that girl Diana.
Oh, Shelley took Diana in.
Oh, Diana, yes, right. And so to me, that's what we should be doing. And even at elementary and junior high, sometimes kids get suspensions, and I don't mean to be mean, but kids are just sitting in an administrative office working on homework. And half the time the administrator has to leave or do something else. And I just, that's not building relationships, it's not helping that child. And how do you find support and the money for that type of in-school suspension? Because you really need to be able to hire someone on a full-time basis to do that.
I'm chuckling because since the movie, we've lost that position.
Oh, that was the part I liked the best.
Us too.
Yeah.
Us too. The impact is huge. The impact has been.
And this year, we're having a rough year, and it's our big push, and we're gonna have to figure out how to shift people in-house to make that happen, but
Just have that steady influence of that one person to build relationships with them.
right? Because then we all make up for it. I have a couch in the back of my room that kids come to de-escalate. They'll come from another room and just walk through, and I know that they need to hang out back there. Or I can walk a kid over to the back of Erik's lab in his science room and use that space. But absolutely, it's such a necessary piece. And when we've gone to visit other schools that have these amazing de-escalation rooms, kind of like the center point of the school, it's a very beautiful thing. And it's and you're right. I mean, suspend a kid out of school, they're just going to go do all the bad behaviors that, you know.
Especially in high school, there's nobody watching them or doing anything.
No, they're going home to smoke more weed if they're getting suspended for smoking weed, you know. So.
I would challenge you to look at what percentage of your suspensions are based on defiance.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the best thing that you can come up with for that kid is to put them out of class based on defiance. You know, like, I can defy behavior. I can defy behavior quite a bit. I love and respect my kids, and with rare exception, they respect me back. And that's where this whole brain science part comes in the strongest. In fact, I probably didn't really understand it until I started developing relationships as deeply as I now do, to where now it's so obvious. Like, there's no way a normal, well-adjusted human being that loves and respects somebody as much as these kids do act the way they do with a healthy brain. Like this kid, and this is that bit of it, the behavior is not a choice. And if the behavior is not a choice, I'm not going to discipline the behavior away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, in my own opinion, but I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but I think a lot of times when a kid acts out, they're actually crying for help. And they want to be loved and accepted, and they want somebody to say, hey, it's okay.
I just had a panicky moment and thought all the administrators in here all of a sudden thought that what I was saying is we shouldn't have consequences. How am I doing? Did I just read that mind read? I think I did. So let's be clear on that. Consequences are incredibly important. I think it's through consequences that kids know they're safe. It's through consequences that they know that there's an adult in this place that has control of me, even though I feel out of control of myself. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. There are behaviors that I'm trying to change in my house. I don't do it by suspending them from my house for 5 days and thinking that's going to change their behavior. Honestly, I think this makes sense, right? Like, I have a high frequency run through my timeout chair, sure. So I'm going to have consequences, right? But the consequence doesn't have to be a hammer in order to start realizing that that kid feels safe and that there's that. Just the fact, like, it's something stupid. Like, they come late to class and they have to go get this note from the office. It's so annoying for them, right? Like, I don't care if I know they're late. What, it doesn't affect. I throw the note away as soon as I get it. I don't even read it 90% of the time, but it's very annoying to have to go get the note from the office. And so they're trying not to be late so they don't have to get a note from the office, right? And there's a good consequence. It's quick, it's annoying. It lets them know that if you do this, there is going to be a consequence, and in turn, it has some change in behavior, right? And so if the problem I'm having is defiance and a relationship issue, then the place that I want this kid is somewhere where we can work on relationships. Why would I want this kid out of my school where I can't work on relationships? Give me a great person in an ISS room that builds relationships with kids. It's figuring out, why is this kid stressed out, acting the way they are? What can I do to tie him back into the system? Why am I going to send him home for 5 days of nothing but Xbox and weed? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
In the second round.
I was just interested in how you collected that data on the new students that you brought to learn what the process was.
Yeah, so I did, and boundaries, let's talk about boundaries real quick too, because I forgot, that always comes up in here too, right? You're texting kids, It's part of that whole package of all the things that we don't do. And I understand that. And like Jeannie says this really well, that everybody has a different level of what they're comfortable with. And if I were in a different place with a different group of kids, and maybe it would look different, and maybe I wouldn't go down that road. It used to be that we had the white pages and the person could pick up the phone and make that phone call, and that's not available anymore. And so, so with that boundary piece, I start off the year by letting them know about me, and I try to let them know more about me than I normally would at the beginning of the year. You know, and no, that doesn't mean going into weird personal stuff, but I will talk to them about things that I'm legitimately scared of, or things that have been impactful for me for my life. Like my grandmother passing away from me when I was in college was incredibly impactful for my life, and how that affected me, because the number of my kids in my classroom that have had a loss is substantial, right? Like that's something that I'm safe talking about, that my grandma passed away, and here's the effect it had on me, but it's also real. And then I give them a question, and it's the best part, it's just a quiz, and really it's I canvas an online learning thing. It's a blended learning in my classroom, and so it's a way for them to figure out how to take a quiz and a way to figure out how to turn in an assignment. They take a quiz that has two questions. What's the best part of school in the past for you? What's the worst part of school in the past for you? And then they turn in a word assignment, so they know how to turn an assignment in, and it is an allow myself to introduce myself assignment. And I give them free rein to just talk about as much as they want to about themselves. And it's interesting that the primer, because without it, it's not the same, but the primer of me truly introducing me, it's me, the human, up here in front of the classroom that has these real hopes and fears and presents a real piece of me, they then just like, not all of them, but many, gush it out.
Hi, so this is a little bit from an administrator's lens, and it's directed at Bradburn up there, and Genie, correct? Yeah. Genie, yeah. So I'm just reflecting and thinking of it. There's an intrinsic humanity to all of this, right? It's about the person. It's about the person in front of these kids. And that intrinsic humanity can't be fabricated, if you will. So when you're trying to create a culture as an administrator, with the intrinsic humanity to the interaction you have with kids, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How long does that take? There's some things that can be taught through PD, through watching movies. There's some of us that take it, walk away with it, reflect on it, and say, how can we implement this tomorrow? But there's some of us that live it, breathe it. It's part of who we are. So Jeannie said something, you got emotional in the video and said, someone's got to do this. And you're absolutely right, someone's got to do this. And it can't be one person. So how do you bring a community together in an efficient, time-effective way to do this work by still honoring who they are and that they have these lives and they have these things? Like, I'm kind of like you, Jeannie. Like, I want to do all these things, but I'm in this, like, battle with myself.
He's a great guy to answer this.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I brought it.
This is amazing.
He's doing it.
Yeah.
So, and then, as a teacher and as an administrator, what does that look like? How do you bridge that world?
I think the most important thing is to start with aligning language
Yeah.
as a staff team. So common definition of what's important, aligning goals, picking 3 or 4 things that you all believe in, all to get behind, that are kid and relationship focused, about what we're willing to do, to make those relationships, to focus on the fact that no one is going to learn from you if they don't want to listen to you, if they don't like looking at you, if they don't want to be anywhere near you. You can teach beautifully, but if you haven't built the relationship, it's not going to happen. So to build those core beliefs into a staff is so important. And then to work with that staff to say, once they know you and they're invested in you and they want to know more about you and they know you personally, to whatever level you're comfortable with sharing, because there are different barriers for different people, and there's professional barriers too. But to be able to go to that line and know where that line is really important. And from administration, is to supporting teachers in that work as well, and to also, we did a lot of talk about who takes care of the teachers in this when they're giving so much. And it's really important to always be aware of that through the work we do with professional development. Saying yes to teachers a lot is a big job that I do. If they ask for something, finding a way to make it happen because they're asking for what they need and believing them is really important. From administration, building the same relationships with my teachers that I want to see them build with students is really important. I believe the best thing for kids are happy teachers, because they're the ones working with the kids all the day. So all those types of things, but those core beliefs to agree upon, play hard together, build those relationships among staff, have fun together, laugh together. And then when it comes to curriculum, once kids want to learn from a teacher, they want to know what they're interested in, curriculum is what they're interested in. That's when they get to share their passions with the children, is because if kids want to know what you're passionate about. Well, I'm passionate about art and social studies, and so they're going to want to hear those stories from me now because they're invested in me. And so building those relationships are absolutely vital. So at my school, we spend all our time building relationships, and in building relationships, we teach curriculum.
One of the things, that's kind of in the movie is, that you guys have support. You've got the clinic, just half a block away, so you've got the medical clinic, you've got the mental health supports there, right? So because if you are a teacher and you're dealing with unacceptable behavior or disruptive behavior, and you've got no place to, or nobody to look after those people in your building, and all you can do then to help the other 35 kids is to get that kid out of there, because that kid is disrupting your whole classroom, but you got nobody. So, the Family Center has been partnering with schools now for, since '95. We're now in, I think, over 40 schools. I know that we have a success coach in any research, right? Yeah, and so our mission or our mandate is to be in the community and provide services and break down barriers for mental health supports and provide those kind of supports so that kids can stay in school, so that we can say to kids, you came here, stay here. We'll work with you here. You don't need to go anywhere else. Stay here, and provide those supports to the kids in the school. Right now, a lot of the schools are using the equity funding, for that kind of support in their schools, to get mental health support and success coaches and even in-home support workers, people that can work with the parents. Because one of the things that the research has shown, thanks to the Palix Foundation, is that the best way to work with kids with high ACE scores is to work with the parents. Now that doesn't happen so much in high schools, but we're not just talking about high schools. We're talking about elementary schools. We're talking about junior high schools. And like you were saying, Eric, we got to back it up, right? You can't just wait to high school to work with these kids with high ACE scores.
Bill, I was wondering if you could, while you got the mic, I was wondering if you could elaborate on how you use the ACEs as a diagnostic tool.
Well, we use, thanks again to the Palix Foundation, and Alberta Wellness, introduced the ACEs to Alberta and introduced that whole study here. If people haven't had a chance to take a look at that study, there's a great website called ACEs Too High. And we basically look at that and we saw, okay, well, this is an explanatory model. Like, if you can take a look at the number of adverse childhood experiences that happen in a person's life, and that it explains a lot, and it changes the question from what's wrong with you, why are you such a screw up, to what happened to you. And then it's understandable, the behavior that's happening is understandable. So we use the ACE questionnaire. It's just 10 questions, and we use it with 100% of our clients at the Family Center. And we work, and in our schools, we're working, especially with our mental health therapists, not so much with the coaches and the Woods and Wings workers, but with our mental health therapists, we use that ACE questionnaire with all of our clients. And then, because here's the thing, because the adverse childhood experiences, the abuse, the neglect, the sexual abuse, the humiliation, and poverty happen when kids are little. They don't understand the relationship between what happened to them and how they're feeling and how they're behaving. They just think they're screw-ups. And you only make the connection when somebody asks them, how do you think this has affected you? then they make the connection. They go, wow, never thought of it before. And Vincent Felitti, Dr. Felitti, when, the lead investigator of the ACE study said, a rock would make that connection. But you don't make the connection because you're just a kid. You don't make the connection until somebody asks. And then it makes a world of difference.
So administrators though, back to you guys again, because here's the deal, this is a great resource, and we have a similar resource under a different title at our school. The way that looks for me as an educator and a teacher, I work hand in hand because I'm the front line, I should be the first one recognizing that there's something wrong with the kid, and that I can utilize this resource, right? But you as administrators, you can't put this on them. You can't put this on, you can't have this idea to bring in these mental health professionals, and they're gonna be able to just connect in with the kids, and then they're gonna be able to, I'm gonna let my teachers run the way they've always run, but whenever we have this kid that's causing a disruption or a problem, I'm just gonna pluck them out of class, I'm gonna hand them off to the mental health provider, they're gonna go fix their brain, which is gonna be great, and they're gonna bring it back and I'm gonna plug it back into the classroom. It doesn't work that way. It requires everybody being on the same page as to what they're looking for with your kids. I mean, you're gonna have old school teachers that are not gonna be comfortable with the idea that behavior is not an option. And like a great example is we have where a kid can self-select out of the classroom if they need to de-escalate, right? If they need to go someplace and they just can't learn, they're freaking out or they're just way too mad, they can go on their own, right? Well, the traditional model, what's the fear? Well, these kids are just gonna take advantage of this because they don't wanna go to class and they're gonna go. Guess what? It doesn't happen. And when it does happen, it's brutally obvious when they only leave math. And then you just say no, right? So but put it out there. Watch what happens if you were to present that to your teachers and see what they're reacting. You want to judge where they're at on the trauma-informed lens. You just present at a staff meeting, hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let kids self-select out of class in case they need to go de-escalate, and you watch what happens in that room, right? And now for us, it's just the way we work. A kid can, if they need to, they get up, they walk out, they go do whatever, they calm down, and they come right back in. They re-engage in the process. They're not, for the most part, taking advantage of it, and it's very obvious what they do.
So I promised we'd be out of here by 8 o'clock, so I'm gonna go final question, and then we'll go down the panel, and each of you will have a chance to give the last word, and either hope or wish.
So I'm Elaine, I'm a success coach in 3 elementary schools. And I spent quite a bit of time trying to bring everybody who's working in the child's world, in the school, the home, the community, in these meetings. And I noticed that you did a lot of collaborative meetings with your teams. How frequently do you make sure that those happen?
Every other week, every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday. So do you have an early out that day and then you do that on that day? Now, do you do it with all the staff or do you do it with just a smaller team?
All the staff and the health center and everyone is invited who works in the school.
Community resources will sometimes show up as well.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Finished. Maybe I'm very curious just to hear from Erik and Genie. You spent the day here in Edmonton. I understand you've spent some time with both Brad and Bill. I'm curious any takeaways you might have that you're taking home with you, and if there's any final words you wanted to share, and then maybe pass the mic down and give them both a chance to.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I'm a high school science teacher from Walla Walla that got wrapped up in this thing, not really knowing what was going to happen, and so take this with a grain of salt. What it's worth. You guys have such a resource sitting up here. If you've not gone and sat in his school, then you're missing out. The energy in that school is phenomenal. The love of kids, you can feel walking through the halls. The resources that Bill has offering as far as support to kids, and I think the way it seemed to me is I learned what the people that I talked to this morning were doing, the training that can be offered to staff in your buildings, like to the words that were coming out of those people's mouths this morning, they're spot on, but it flies in contrast somewhat to what I was taught in education as to what a classroom should look like. It flies in the face of what might be comfortable for people who've been teaching a long time. Like, change is not easy, and it's a pretty dramatic shift in the way we view kids. But I guess that's what I would want for you to hear is the resources on this end of the table, from what I experience on a day-to-day life, blew my mind. Like I was blessed this morning to fly here and be able to hang out with these people for the first half of this day. Like, do not waste this opportunity that you have.
Yeah, absolutely, connect, you know, these are very cool interactions. We had a very open, organic discussion this morning, and having groups like this, don't waste those resources, absolutely. And the thing that I would say is that, you know, school is supposed to be academic, but I talked this morning with a lot of the people who are the support people, and having those conversations, like what about if for our professional development, we did not do one more teaching strategy, we did not do one more thing that people have so many teaching strategies, right? What if we talked about social emotional well-being and health and how we're going to improve on that? Because in our experience, once you build on that, once you build relationships, the academics come in a whole different way than you ever thought they would. So it's not like we're saying, don't pay attention to the academic piece. It's kind of, you flip it, and then you have kids that are willing to do crazy cool academic stuff.
I was honored today to be able to hang out with these two and just talk about, because I've been watching Paper Tigers, and we have been working with ACE scores in our school for the past 4 years as well, recognizing that trauma-informed practice is essential in meeting the needs of a population with very specific learning needs at all levels. But I do want to address the whole idea of the BLA question that you asked about kids wanting to drop out at 16. I think one of the things in our divisional schools that we don't do well is transition. We do transition plans, but we don't set up the next school for success. We use phrases like, oh, no one's going to love you like we do. We got to take off our capes, put away our spandex, and celebrate the people they're going to. Because in order for them to be successful, we need to prepare them for their journey without us. As much as we love them, we need to build success for the next group as well. And that's one of the keys. We have a BLA class in my school as well, and one of the keys that we build in the idea of graduation by building the safety and success in the high school they'll be going to, and building those relationships, getting them there, meeting the teachers, meeting the principal, doing shadow days, just really, they're dropping out because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's apathetic, but mostly it's fear. Fear of failure that they've learned so well, so many times. So if we build in success as many ways as possible, we'll have a better chance of having those kids have a successful journey. So again, we need to set up our colleagues to be successful in high school. We need to set up the careers to be successful in elementary schools, junior high, and so on. So, but it's been a phenomenal day. We've had lots of great sharing, lots of great laughs. It's really encouraging to see across-border similarities between our populations and our philosophies to just love kids and love them hard.
So I'd just like to add, that, spending half a day with Erik and Genie, one of the things that we talked about a lot was just like Brad said, was falling in love with the kids. And we just spent a day, the Family Center just spent a day with Gordon Newfeld yesterday. And he talks about, it doesn't matter how much you love your kids, and what matters is how much they love you. That makes a difference. So the challenge is getting your kids to love you. You have to court them. You have to get them to love you. And then that makes your job a lot easier.
So to conclude, again, I have a few thank yous and one next step. So if at the front we had an attendance sheet, and I think we had all your emails, and if not, please write it down on the way out. We have kind of a goodie bag that we will email you after the event this evening with a bunch of resources, research, training, future web modules, everything else that's coming to you as a gift from the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative. We also are going to have, in front of you, you'll see this little USB key. So that USB key, it is indeed a gift, it is a USB key, but it also contains the whole library of Alexandria of all of the mentoring resources you could ever hope, wish, or dream of that Corey in the back has pulled together. It's got how to start a mentoring program, in-school mentoring programs, community-based mentoring programs, mentoring for Aboriginals, Aboriginal communities and Indigenous communities, mentoring for new immigrant, refugee, and other communities. So we saw in the film how important it is to have that presence of that caring adult, the constant in a youngster's life. And I think the best compliment we can give to all of us in our work is to bring more parents and community constants and supports for our kids. And so please take that USB, copy and share it generously, and get it out there. And if you have any other questions as well, Corey will have more help for you. There's a flyer in front of you too about becoming a partner. It's an OP partnership with the Alberta Mentoring Partnership. And all of the research from the Palix Foundation that was cited up here, the ACES study, all of that will have available to you too. Please share it far and wide. So once again, thank you to the Alberta Teachers Association, the Edmonton Public School Board, Alberta Family Wellness Initiative, Alberta Mentoring Partnership, and of course our 4 phenomenal panelists who have came here, shared, gone around the community, and have a very, very busy day tomorrow going to Calgary. So I want to honor and respect them by letting them get to bed on time. Thank you to all of you for coming, and if you have other community of practice events, ideas, things that are happening, please share them with me, share them with Marissa, share them with Corey, and we'll spread them out throughout the community. We are all in this together. Thank you.